What is poppin' YouTube? Back again with another video. Today we're doing my final mock draft before the NFL draft tomorrow. We're so excited. We're pumped for it. Without further ado, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. It helps me out so much, and let's get into this mock. We are going to be using Chad Reuter's mock that is linked down below in the bio to 7-round mock. Without further ado, my 101 is going to be Bijan Robinson, lands with the Atlanta Falcons at pick number 8. Pairing Bijan Robinson with Kyle Pitts, Drake London. We don't know what the quarterback situation is, but let's just say Arthur Smith loves to use his running backs. So Bijan Robinson, he's already the surefire RB1 in Dynasty, and this would further cement his RB1 Dynasty ranking and the 101 in my opinion. My 102 is going to be Bryce Young to the Carolina Panthers at pick 1. Bryce Young, we don't know what the weapons are going to be besides Adam Thielen and DJ Chark. Doesn't sound great, but let's just say this. I prefer Bryce Young as a quarterback overall. He is my QB1 in this class, and I know there's a lot of height concerns, but at this point, Bryce Young, 102, feels like the safest upside pick that you can have, and especially if you're in those top 3 or 4 early picks and you need a quarterback, Bryce Young feels like the safest bet that we can pick. At my 103, CJ Stroud to the Colts. Still an Ohio State Buckeye fan. Know there's a lot of slander happening with his test scores and things happening where he should have been the first overall pick. I still think CJ Stroud has the most talented arm in the class, and he's still my QB2. None of this he said, he said kind of stuff is getting in my way of thinking that CJ Stroud, I saw the way that he was able to process at Ohio State. And like I said, I'm not a quarterback evaluator at all. But even if he is the third quarterback taken in this class, I am not concerned because the NFL gets around all the time, and so do we in the Dynasty community. So I'm a big CJ Stroud proponent, especially on the Indianapolis Colts offense. So at the 103, I will be taking CJ Stroud. At the 104, I will be taking Anthony Richardson, who fell to the Minnesota Vikings in this mock draft. Putting Anthony Richardson maybe sitting a year behind Kirk Cousins, but then getting into an offense with Justin Jefferson is something that we always want to see out of our dynasty quarterbacks. The rushing upside is there, the elite level athleticism in there, and then having the best wide receiver in the NFL at your disposal whenever you do start, that is something that would be super exciting. And that is why I would be taking Anthony Richardson over Will Levis, even though Will Levis is going to be my 105 as he got picked in the second pick to the Houston Texans. Now, if he does get that number 2 overall draft capital, we will have to be taking Will Levis over any of the other position players just because we do play Superflex. And I know the community is down on Will Levis, but if he does have this resurgence, you have to take that upside shot, because if he does have that second overall draft capital, he has the potential to get into that first round of startup dynasty value, which is always what you're looking for. And being able to get that at the 105 feels like a steal. My 106 is going to be Jackson Smith-Njigba to the Baltimore Ravens. The thing we have to remember about Jackson Smith-Njigba, elite level prospect. To a lot of us, he reminds us a lot of Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase in our prospect profiles. The thing I will say, this is the part of the draft where Jackson Smith-Njigba lands with the Ravens, which is not a great landing spot for Jackson Smith-Njigba. So we are definitely going to have to be taking talent over situation if this happens to Jackson Smith-Njigba, but no worries. JSN, elite level prospect, hopefully gets the ball thrown to him by Lamar Jackson, and we'll be taking him at the 106 because we're just banking on him being that elite level wide receiver prospect that can overcome a situation. At the 107, we will be taking Jahmyr Gibbs. Jahmyr Gibbs was drafted by the Philadelphia Eagles in round 2. Having him pair up with Jalen Hurts in the backfield, I cannot imagine a read option trying to choose which one you're going for. Now, we do not like the fact that he went to the Eagles because we know he's not going to get those dump off passes. He might not have as high receiving numbers, but the thing is, his touchdown upside will be there just based on the fact that the Eagles will be a high proficient offense where they will be getting those red zone opportunities. Even though Jalen Hurts will be taking a lot of those touchdowns in himself, we still have to be taking those chances on a talent like Jahmyr Gibbs, where he could be the Eagles' Alvin Kamara that they were trying to trade for last year. My 108 is going to be Zay Flowers. Zay Flowers to the Chiefs in round 1. Zay Flowers, will he become Tyreek Hill? I do not know. He's been compared to Antonio Brown. I think that's a very, very hard argument to be made because Antonio Brown, before he went head crazy and Vontaze Burfict knocked his head off, he was the he was the best wide receiver we had seen in a long time. And to put those expectations on Zay Flowers, I think is a little wrong in my personal opinion. But nevertheless, we have to take this Chiefs landing spot with a wide receiver that we think is uber talented in round 1. He does pass up some other wide receivers that we have ranked higher on him pre-draft process. But like I said, we're following this mock. So if that were to happen, we would have to take Zay Flowers at the 108. At the 109, we are taking Jordan Addison, who is my wide receiver 2 in this class, but he goes to the Bills. Same exact great landing spot. We do prefer his talent over Zay Flowers, but we prefer Zay Flowers' situation. So that's why we had Zay Flowers ahead of Jordan Addison in this mock. But if Jordan Addison gets to learn from Stephon Diggs, get the ball thrown from Josh Allen, we have to think Gabe Davis. There has been moments where Gabe Davis, Isaiah McKenzie last year had prominent fantasy football moments as the wide receiver 2 opposite of Stephon Diggs. No reason to think that Jordan Addison, who's probably more talented than both of those guys, can't find a situation and improve his dynasty value and have a great rookie year. At my 110, we're going to be taking Zach Charbonnet to the Cincinnati Bengals. Zach Charbonnet falls into the second round, gets drafted by the Bengals, assuming that Joe Mixon is on a 1-year deal, because next year they can get out for a significant less cap hit than they can for this year. So assuming he is playing second fiddle to Joe Mixon, I would say this is the typical Javonte Williams or J.K. Dobbins track, where not really playing a whole lot until about week 8, but then all of a sudden comes on super late into the season. So if you're drafting him in Dynasty, I would not be expecting, if he were to land on the Bengals, something where he's just taking over the backfield week 1. But the thing we do know about Zach Charbonnet, he does have that receiving upside. He is kind of molded in that same Joe Mixon, where he can get the receptions out of the backfield. And the Bengals have just a very prolific offense. And Joe Burrow is not doing a ton of read options. So once they get into the red zone, they're either throwing it up for a goal line post, or they're going to hand it off to the running back, Zach Charbonnet. So Zach Charbonnet at the 110 feels like great value, and especially considering the fact that if he were to land on the Bengals, Zach Charbonnet would instantly be propelled into the top 8 running backs for Dynasty. Getting that at the 110, great value. At the 111, we will be taking Quentin Johnston. He falls to the Houston Texans in round 2 to then be paired up with Will Levis and to be the automatic wide receiver 1 for the Houston Texans. Do we think the Houston Texans as a team are going to be very good? No. But if they're not going to be good, that means they're going to be having to throw the ball a lot. As much as we think of the way that Will Levis can't read the field and throws a lot of interceptions and makes a lot of boneheaded moves, they're going to have to be throwing the ball a lot. And Brandon Cooks has had a predominant fantasy football role for the Houston Texans over the last 2 years. Quentin Johnston can step right into that wide receiver 1 territory, learn from Robert Woods, and be the alpha that we know he potentially has the ability to be, even though he's not as tall as we would have liked him to come out of the combine. Still, QJ at the 111 feels like great value as my wide receiver 3 in the pre-draft process. At the 112, we will be taking Hendon Hooker, who does get drafted into the first round by the Raiders. You have to take that first-round quarterback. As much as you could say, oh, Caleb, well, Jordan Love was a first-round quarterback, and now he's finally getting his opportunity, and it feels like his value had. But like we see what happens. The moment that one of these quarterbacks is going to be the starter, their dynasty value just jumps up tenfold. And so that's the bet we're making on Hendon Hooker. I know he's 25 years old. I know he's the same age as Joe Burrow. But really, at the end of the day, the NFL, it does not matter about age for the quarterbacks. These guys are playing until 35, 40 years old anyway. So he is still young enough. I'm not taking him over any of the other quarterbacks for sure. But I think Hendon Hooker has definitely elevated himself. And so if you're a back-end team, if you just won the championship and you are getting the 112 and you are able to draft Hendon Hooker, I think that is great value to be had in your rookie drafts. Moving on to the second round, at the 201, we have Michael Mayer to the Bengals. Michael Mayer goes to the Bengals. And like we said, so Zach Charbonnet went in the second round. Michael Mayer goes in the first round. So they are really adding offensive weapons, Reuters thinking, for the Bengals. And Michael Mayer could step right into that Hayden Hurst role. Hayden Hurst was a very valuable tight end at the beginning of last season, was able to catch a few passes, catch a few touchdowns. Michael Mayer is a better prospect than Hayden Hurst ever was, even though Hayden Hurst was drafted in the first round as well. Now, tight end, it does take a minute for these tight ends to develop. I mean, TJ Hawkinson, the first year he came in as a first-round tight end, had one great game against Arizona and then kind of disappeared the rest of the season. And now we've seen eventually what he's able to do 3 or 4 years down the line. Now, can Michael Mayer replicate that? I think very much so. But I would temper expectations, but being able to get Michael Mayer, who was supposed to be a top 5 or 6 Dynasty fantasy football pick in this class at the 201, feels like great value. Just hold him, as he's going to have a lot of ups and downs in his first 2 years. At 102, I have Dalton Kincaid to the Chargers. Same exact scenario as Michael Mayer, where he's getting the ball thrown to him by a very good quarterback, very good offense, but we're going to have to temper expectations. But the same exact thing, that he was the first tight end off the board, says a lot about the skill set that Dalton Kincaid has, especially as a receiving option. If we remember the game against USC, he single-handedly put Utah over USC in that Pac-12 championship game, which I will say helped my Buckeyes out a ton. But Dalton Kincaid, very talented tight end, and be able to get him at the 202, where in most years' drafts with super weak draft class, he would be going in that first round. Feels like a great value to be getting early in your rookie draft. At 203, we are taking Josh Downs. Now, Josh Downs went to the Cowboys, and like we just said with the Cowboys have Brandon Cooks, the Cowboys have CeeDee Lamb, but Josh Downs being able to learn from Brandon Cooks, I think would be super amazing for his NFL development, but also for his fantasy football development. The Cowboys have been able to produce 3 quality receiving options for fantasy football. If you think just a few years ago, Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, CeeDee Lamb. And even in that year, Dalton Schultz was having a very good up-and-coming breakout year. And so there's no reason to think that with Dalton Schultz gone, with, of course, Amari Cooper hasn't been there, and Michael Gallup has been on and off injured, that Josh Downs can't step up into that wide receiver 3 role alongside Brandon Cooks and CeeDee Lamb and actually produce fantasy football value that you're getting at the 203, with the upside that he eventually replaces Brandon Cooks and is the wide receiver 2 for the Cowboys, getting the ball thrown to him by Dak Prescott. I do really like that landing spot quite a lot, and that is why I have Josh Downs at the 203. At the 204 is when we start this kind of running back charade that I'm taking a lot based on talent and also draft landing spot. I know everyone's had their second round draft running backs that they've been looking at, but at the 204, I will be taking Tyjae Spears, who went to the New Orleans Saints, being able to be there with Jamal Williams, what's going to be happening with Alvin Kamara. He probably is going to be the RB3 for at least this year, but you could easily see a role where he is super explosive and going into year 2 has the ability to be the starter and getting a majority of the touches. So I will be taking the shot at Tyjae Spears at the 204. At the 205, I will be taking a shot on Zach Evans. Zach Evans, I do love him a lot. I just couldn't take him over Tyjae Spears in that landing. Zach Evans goes to the Browns in this mock draft. Zach Evans at the 205 in the 3rd round draft capital. We feel great about that. Nick Chubb is coming up on the end of his contract, also getting up there in age. How many more years of elite level Nick Chubb do we have? While Zach Evans getting drafted in the 3rd round starts to tell you that they are starting to plan for the future. Like we said, Zach Evans, we don't love the fact that he was beat out at TCU by Kendre Miller, and then he goes to Ole Miss and has to split the backfield again with Judkins. But Zach Evans does feel like a very safe prospect to be taken in the middle of your 2nd round that could eventually be looked at as the rookie diamond of the 2nd round. At the 206, we are taking Kendre Miller from the Patriots. The Patriots draft him, of course, to add into their classic, typical running back by committee, Ramondre Stevenson, and now we'll add Kendre Miller. They all seem like the same type of running back, these hard runners. But the thing with Kendre Miller, we need to worry a little bit about his injury. But if he's falling if he gets 3rd round draft capital to the Pats, I will happily be taking him here, because at the end of the day, it could be any week that Kendre Miller ends up busting out and becoming an elite level fantasy option, just a lot like Ramondre Stevenson did last year. And we know he's probably not going to get a 2nd contract. So this would be looking at him as a 1 or 2 year elite, not elite level, but 1 or 2 years levels of production for Kendre Miller. But I will take that shot over anything else when we're in the 2nd round. We're taking the dart throws at running back and hoping that it lands. At the 207, we will be taking Rashee Rice, who went to the Bears at the end of the 2nd round. The Bears, of course, they've added to the receiving core with DJ Moore. They still have Cole Kmet, Darnell Mooney, Chase Claypool. There's a real way that if Rashee Rice gets the 2nd round draft capital, I know Velvis Jones, they drafted Velvis Jones, so maybe they're not the best at evaluating wide receivers. There's a way that you could easily see, he could eventually take over that wide receiver 2 role. Being able to get him in the middle of the 2nd feels great. So I will be taking Rashee Rice here at the 207. At the 208, we will be taking Kayshon Boutte, who goes to the Seattle Seahawks. Tyler Lockett's going to be retiring here soon. We don't know who the quarterback's going to be in this mock. They didn't take a quarterback, so it looks like it's still Geno Smith. DK Metcalf is the alpha, but then being able to have Kayshon Boutte learn from DK Metcalf, eventually be able to slide into the wide receiver 2 or wide receiver 3 role is super exciting, as we do know that he had the elite level rookie profile. We do know that he had a lot of off-field issues at LSU. A lot to be said about him, but the fact that he got the 3rd round draft capital makes it easier enough to take him at the 208 and not feel bad about it. At the 209, we will be taking Chase Brown, who goes to the Bears. Like we said, the Bears, they didn't draft an elite level Bijan Robinson type prospect in this draft, so they draft Chase Brown. They do have 2 current running backs on the roster that are fantasy relevant. You got Foreman, and you also have Khalil Herbert. So could Chase Brown overtake either of those guys this year? Easily. He's probably going to come in, be that 3rd down role type of player, but eventually being able to take over more of the carries if an injury or something like that happens. So being able to get him at the 209 with the idea that the Bears offense is going to get more efficient feels like a great pick. At the 210, we have my man Roschon Johnson, falls to the Cardinals in the 4th round. If he went in the 3rd round, I would definitely be having Roschon a lot higher than this. But like I said, we got to evaluate this based on the draft capital. And if you want to take a look at the mock, it's right there in the description. Roschon Johnson on the Cardinals easily can replace James Conner. Hopefully this year 1's just going to be a wash for Roschon Johnson, and next year he can come in and step in and have an elite level production as Kyler Murray comes back and the offense kind of starts to take shape. At the 211, I have Sam Laporta. He went to the Dolphins, but I was also going to say right here, you could take Darnell Washington or Luke Musgrave. These guys all went in the 2nd round. So just depending on your flavor of tight end, that would be who I would choose here. But Sam Laporta to the Dolphins replaces Mike Gesicki in the elite level offense that the Dolphins did provide last year when Tua was healthy. And so I will be taking Sam Laporta. I saw what he did to my Ohio State Buckeyes. I love the way that he runs routes. He's the typical Iowa tight end, but I don't think he's as nasty. I don't think he's just going to be relegated to blocking duties, but I think he has the potential to be a full encompassing tight end. And then my final pick in the second round is going to be Devon Achane. Devon Achane falls to the 4th round to the Broncos. But like we were saying in past videos, he has that elite level upside, home run hit ability. And so being able to pick up on Devon Achane, get him as that late round dart throw. That's what we're doing here in the second round, guys. We're making these late round dart throws, hoping that they stick, even though he is little and has size. But if I'm going to bake on someone becoming the next Chris Johnson, I will take that shot at the end of the second all day, every day. Appreciate everyone for tuning in here today. We are going to be going live a ton during the NFL draft. The moment that these guys are getting picked, we're going to go live. We're going to talk about it. And then we're going to just keep making videos, making live. So I would appreciate if you hit the like button. If you subscribed, it means a lot, helps me out so much as a channel as we're trying to get to 200 subs. So become a part of the community. Come join us as we continue to embark on our dynasty journeys. Talk to you guys soon.